And we're live! Welcome to Self-Care Sunday. Are you having a great Sunday? I'm having a great Sunday, and it's so much better now that you're here. Welcome to my new apartment. This is where the magic happens. Tiffy is on the couch. You can't see her here, but you should be able to see her on the Tiffy cam, which I believe is, right down there. I know it's a little further away. We're working it out. It's a new space, new year, new space, new life. Happy April 1st, April Fool's Day. I see a lot of familiar people in the chat. Mitzrayim, Emir G, Kiki Dolly, Shelly C. Perrin, Nanny. Happy Easter, happy Passover, everybody. Happy Self-Care Sunday. This is the first of what is now going to be a monthly cadence for this show. Thank you to everybody for your enthusiasm and understanding. I'm excited to just get to explore more of this format and have more time for sort of like other segments and things. And this month's going to be pretty straightforward, pretty simple. We got none other than Gabriel Urbina on as a guest. I got to talk to him a little earlier this morning. He was busy this afternoon, so we pre-taped that. I'll play that in a moment. I want to save a special shout out for those of you who aren't necessarily watching live. You're just as much a part of this community as all the fine folks that do make it live, and I just appreciate you. Definitely hit that like button if you like this video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed to my channel, and if you sign up for notifications, if you have subscribed to that little bell icon, you'll be one of the first people on the planet to know whenever I go live, so there's always that. A little bit of housekeeping before we get too far into things. I just want to welcome Trevor, producer and collaborator. Trevor is directing and co-producing the audio drama contest audio drama from Write a Script November, Rye-Scrivember. It's called Frame Shift. We've been hard at work at that. The winning author is Shannon Smith, who's tune in next month for a pre-taped interview with none other than the author of Frame Shift, Shannon Smith. Trevor and I have some Frame Shift news that we're going to withhold until after the interview with Gabriel. But I think we may know some more people who are involved in the show.
A couple more exciting names.
I'm excited. Are you excited?
I'm very excited. It's been a blast. We've officially started recordings, so that makes it all the more real and all the more cool that these people are involved.
Hell yeah. We had 2 weeks ago our lead, it's hard to say.
One of the main characters.
One of the main characters, Brigand Snow, is going to be playing Makamnu from Frame Shift, and we got his lines recorded last week.
Mm-hmm. Classic Brigand Snow performance.
And what would you say you discovered or learned as a sort of up-and-coming director?
Yeah, it was my first time doing audio directing only. I'd done some film visual stuff, but this was the first time on audio. It was very relaxed and a very good creative environment, I think, because we could chat and move freely and not be rushed by a bunch of different departments. That was a blast to have that level of comfortability between just me and the cast.
Nice. That's awesome. What would you say was the single best thing you did to prepare to direct for the first time in the audio format?
Well, I got to talk with our guest for this week beforehand. I met with Gabriel Urbina to get some audio drama specific directing tips, and he was generous enough to give me a few minutes to chat about all that, which was great because there were a lot of things I just wouldn't have thought of, and especially in terms of kind of actor-director etiquette and how you approach the actor and what you give them so that they're in a good place to give the performance that they need to give.
That's awesome. And what would you say was the thing that stuck with you the most, that made the most difference, like, once you got there?
When we're recording and directing, the ability to kind of let things run out all the way through every time was important. I think I would have naturally done more small, minute adjustments as we go through, but letting things play out, take notes, come back in, and then adjust and have more of a conversation with the actor rather than just tell them exactly what to do, which was really great with Briggan because he knows his stuff and is willing to collaborate and share ideas back and forth. So couldn't have asked for a better first directing experience.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much for being here, Trevor.
Yeah,
I look forward to having you back on after the interview to spoil some more amazing talent involved in Frame Shift.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome. And I guess if Tiffy moves,
I'll try to track her if she
I will
ends up
trust you.
wandering around.
Yeah. The roving Tiffy cam. Feel free to take it off that stand, too.
Yeah, I'll grab it if I need it.
Amazing.
Cool.
Awesome. Thank you, Trevor.
See you guys a little later.
So the only other thing that I want to talk about before we jump into this interview is Focused AF is back. Well, it's also starting because it's kind of technically a new show. So if you don't know, I was podcasting a nonfiction series last spring, summer, basically like April through June. I did a daily podcast for 60 days. And it almost killed me, but it was amazing. And I've wanted to bring it back. And I finally did. I put up the first new episode this past Friday. And I'm going to be experimenting with every other Friday for that show. So go check it out. You go to focus.af, get the podcast. There's a link right there. It'll take you to where I host the show at Omni Studio, and there you can find any of the things. You can also just search for Focused AF on any of your favorite podcast apps. I haven't tested with all of them. I know like Pocket Cast was a little laggy, but iTunes is working. I haven't checked out Google Play, but I would assume it's also working there. So go check that out. I'll be back on the 13th. I know that I have a little clip with Gabriel that I recorded after this interview that'll be in that. So look forward to that. And yeah. Shout out to my patrons on patreon.com /Zach Valenti. Y'all have been incredible, and I so appreciate your support. And it's because of viewers like you that I'm able to take shows like this to the next level every single time. I see Shelley C. Perrin is saying that it worked really well on Podbean. So it looks like the show did come through. Focused AF is live. So go enjoy that. And in the meantime, here's a little conversation with one of my best friends and just an incredible creative collaborator. This is Gabriel Urbina. I'm just showing up his website, GabrielUrbina.com. Follow him on Twitter at Gabriel Urbina TM. And last but not least, you can sign up for his newsletter at tinyletter.com/Gabriel Urbina. All right. And without further ado, here is Gabriel. Welcome, Gabriel.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks for coming on this show.
No, thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah, so when did you start doing Self-Care Sunday?
44-ish weeks ago.
Okay.
This is the 44th episode, and there's like been some gaps.
Sure.
It's like maybe about 50 weeks ago.
Okay, so like almost a year, more or less.
Wow, that's like close to how many. That's how that works with Sundays.
Yeah, because it's what, 52 weeks in a year?
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
Crazy.
So yeah, I guess like April of last year, like around the time that we were doing the Loveless flashback special, like on Wolf 359. Around the time that we were recording that, that's around when you started doing this. That's right. Yeah. Wow, what a journey.
Yeah, I know. Different apartment.
great new space.
I'm super
That
excited
looks
about it.
exactly like the old space.
Yeah, a little
in
bit.
many ways.
Right, just bigger.
Yeah, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Well,
MRG
I've
actually
been
looks like a talk show
excited to
setup.
have you on. I feel like there's like
I'm excited to be on. I can finally
so many things
take
we
you to
can talk about.
task
This
for
just
all these
falls
Yeah,
down.
that looks. I saw the. angle
This has
when
been
I,
like slowly.
transferred over the
just like
working its way
right,
down.
and it like feels like a show.
Yeah.
Sad.
Um,
The more space.
yeah.
It makes a good difference.
So
And, like, being able to have like a fancy looking.
I guess there's a lot
set,
that we
like,
could
this is,
talk
like,
about, and I
all my
think
favorite
the
YouTubers.
I
way
think Aardvarks.
Aardvarks
It's a great place to start.
As the, right, like MKBHD.
Aardvarks.
Aardvarks
Aardvarks.
Aardvarks, those are things.
Yeah, those are actually
Let me
things.
see if I can
Ard-
actually-
Unlike the thing that I say, Aardvarks.
It would be. It'd be.
Those aren't things.
to recreate.
I need
Yet.
to know.
But give me time.
I need
Give me
to
time.
know.
My mic is totally still on.
Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Like a
Sorry,
good
guys.
responsible
Yeah,
guest, I'm gonna put my phone on silent.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
That's so funny.
yeah. There is a
That's very embarrassing.
there's an election
Sorry,
happening in
I'm
my
gonna
home
start the
country
interview
today.
over,
So
because that's terrible.
Welcome, Gabriel.
oh, thank you.
Thanks for coming on this show.
No, thank you for having me.
It's really a pleasure. It's been a long time coming.
Yeah. So when did you start doing Self Care Sunday?
44-ish weeks ago.
Okay.
This is the 44th episode, and there's like been some gaps.
Sure.
It's like maybe about 50 weeks ago.
Okay, so like almost a year, more or less.
Wow, that's how.
Yeah.
That's like close to how many.
Uh.
That's how that works with Sundays.
Yeah, because
Jesus.
it's what 52 weeks in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there you
Wow.
go.
Crazy.
So yeah, I guess like April of last year, like around the time that we were doing the Loveless flashback special, like on Wolf 359. Around the time that we
Change
were
of
recording
mind,
that,
yeah.
that's around when
Self-Care
you started
Sunday
doing this.
began,
That's right.
yeah.
Yeah. Wow, what a journey!
Yeah, I know. Different apartment.
I'm great new space.
I'm super
That
excited
looks
about it.
exactly like the old space.
Yeah, a little
in
bit.
many ways.
Right, just bigger.
Yeah, but it's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I've been excited to have you on. I feel like there's like
I'm excited to be on. I can finally
so many things
take
we
you to
can talk about.
task
This
for
just
all
falls
these
a little bit.
things.
I feel like this has been like slowly
Just like
working its way down. Yeah.
yeah.
So I guess there's a lot that we could talk about, and I think the
I
way
think Aardvarks
Aardvarks
is a great place to start.
Aardvarks.
Aardvarks.
Can you hear me
Aardvarks.
now?
Aardvarks.
Aardvarks. Those are things.
Yeah, those are actually things.
Ard-
Unlike the thing that I say, Aardvarks.
Aardvarks.
Those aren't things.
I need
yet,
to know.
But give me time.
I need
Give me
to
time.
know.
Actually, you know what I'm gonna do? Like a good responsible
Yeah.
guest, I'm gonna put my phone on silent.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah. There is a there's an election happening in my home country today, so I've kind of been like, send me notifications, like like all the push
Right.
things that I can possibly get to be
Testing,
updated on that. I'm
1,
gonna
2.
put that on mute for the time being.
Awesome.
Really
awesome.
And then I'll
Hear me
check
now.
back with it when we're done, and hopefully nothing will have burnt down too severely in the time.
So I guess we could start there. Like,
Oh, sure.
Let's talk about you're a creator. You're also
Sometimes.
oh, and I'm like I feel like I have the great privilege of working with somebody
Oh,
who I consider one of my best friends and also a brilliant creator.
Well, thank you. It's very nice.
And I guess like just to jump off, like how the hell do you balance that thing in your pocket that connects you to space?
Sure.
That I think is designed primarily for, or at least like in terms of the things you could use it for, like mostly for consumption.
Yeah.
Like how do you balance that with like being productive?
That's a good question. So I think that like the first part of it is that as a writer and as a creator, I am not one of those writers that works best in a vacuum. Like I know some writer friends of mine are like, I like to go to that like one coffee shop in New York that is like soundproofed and you need to know sign language to be able to put in your order because, music is forbidden and you have to, wear your like hermetic isolation headsets while you're there. And then, you turn on the computer program that like blocks out the internet and like there's no way to turn that program off unless you actually destroy your computer.
It's the same people who designed like the secret like FBI prisons.
Yes, exactly. And when that is all sort of like lined up and they have, plugged their nose and put on their blinders,
Right.
that's when they're like, yes, now is the time to write.
Right.
That's not me. I am the sort of person who writing for me is very much kind of a process of having Scrivener open on one half of my screen and then definitely like a web browser open on the other side of the screen, because it is constantly about what are the things that I'm thinking about? What is the, I'm trying to make this point. What's another way that I've seen this point made before? And, sort of like, what are the things that I'm trying to rehash and restructure and recombine into sort of the things that I'm saying? So I am sort of someone who, like, I cannot do the, like, freedom, block out the internet style writing. I am sort of very dependent on, no, I sort of need a little bit of that, like, stream of noise coming in one ear.
Right.
So that I can be sort of selectively grabbing things from that stream as I write. That is definitely, then there's sort of something to be said for, well, how do you then only keep the stream to one ear instead of just like completely falling down the rabbit hole?
Right.
Deadlines mostly. I think that it's just sort of like a matter of like, just knowing that at a certain point you just like have to sit down and do it.
Right.
And I am sort of definitely one of those people that like, if I have a week to write something, I will sort of sit around thinking about it and kind of refreshing Twitter every now and then and taking like a stray note here and there and suddenly look up and 8 hours have gone by and I haven't written anything. I do that for 5 days. And then the last 2 days,
I can really relate with that.
but then the last 2 days, all of a sudden it's like, oh, I now know all the chess moves.
Right.
Like the entire game got figured out in my head while I
you
wasn't
were holding
writing.
space for the right.
Exactly. And now I can just kind of go like, clap, 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 done.
Right.
And there is a certain point at which I have to be sort of conscientious about like, I'm not going to look at my phone again for a little bit. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sort of focus on the writing. And at a certain point, the switch flips where all of a sudden it's like, Jesus, how many missed calls do I have? Like, I haven't looked at my phone in like a while.
Right.
But in my experience, you kind of can't force that. You kind of can't, trying to always be in the fugue state is like those people that do that crazy sleep schedule where you sleep 15
The
minutes
Uber-
every 3 hours or
Right.
whatever. And you're just
So
like,
you only sleep 2 hours in a day, but if
Right.
you don't sleep every 3 hours for 20 minutes, you're like,
and
ruins
the sort of like idea behind that is, in theory you sleep like 8 hours a day, but only like an hour of that is
like
REM
REM,
sleep.
right.
Exactly.
So you can bootstrap REM sleep into
Right. If you just like withhold sleep from your body long enough, at a certain point your brain is like, holy crap, okay, fine, like any second of sleep that you give me, I'm just gonna go straight into REM.
right.
And so then if you're sleeping like 15 minutes every 3 hours, you're sleeping like 2 hours total. But if you're getting every second of it REM, and I have yet to hear any credible stories of people being like, yep, I do that and I loved it and I do it and I've done it for 8 years and never regretted it and it's all turned out great. Like every time that I hear someone trying to do that, it's always just sort of this like awful tale of like, no, I went crazy. Like, my body just completely broke down.
Right.
And I think that trying to be in that fugue state is a little bit like trying to force REM sleep. You kind of need to just like be there and let the process be the process. And you kind of can't just like force the creative burst out of nothingness. Yeah.
I can very much relate with that. I think the difference for me is I do need that like internet blocker, but it's only useful like if I have it on all the time.
Yeah.
Suddenly I'm closing it because like I have it on all the time, like whatever, like I just like I need this one thing and like work justification, like it's easy to sort of. It's a slippery slope.
Sure.
When you start to do it all the time, that I just think like the mind wants to wander.
Yeah.
Whereas if you give yourself, like if I give myself the 5 days of like half writing, like at the coffee shop with like the 3 browsers and like I'm like kind of writing, but also like no research. Like I gotta know, like how does that surgery actually work? Because like I gotta write it.
Right.
And then like on day 5, like close the gates of the internet. Like do not like swallow the key.
Sure.
I will pass it in 72 hours, but until then I'm stuck.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Thank you
went to
for
a
the
place.
imagery. Yes. Totally.
Right.
I think that for me, it's kind of one of those, like, for me specifically, this is not like for the proverbial you, but like, for like me specifically, I kind of quickly discovered that if I was using the internet blocker, it was one of those, like, I'm kind of not ready to be writing yet. Like, it's one of those, like, if I'm using it, I'm kind of trying to force a mindset that I'm not there yet. And it's annoying because sometimes that mindset of like, okay, I'm now ready to write this, that happens at 2 a.m. when you have work the next day at 9. And you kind of then have this awful choice of like, God, do I just stay up and take the like body hit? Or do I kind of go to sleep and not capitalize on this moment? And who knows when it might come next? Like, it might be there tomorrow night when I get off work. It might be gone for a month.
Right. Wow. So how do you think about creativity and self-care? Because obviously,
through alcohol mostly. That is the catalyst in which those two paths meet.
Right. Well, like obviously, if you don't take care of yourself long enough, you're going to be diminished in your capabilities to create. That said, like at some point, there's a call to be made of are you taking care of yourself to create, or are you taking care of yourself to compete with how good you can take care of yourself compared to other people?
Right.
In service of nothing other than winning the game of taking care of yourself.
And, for me, I think that everything that has to do with self-care, as with everything that has to do with creativity, actually, it's the golden rule is context is everything, and that there are no hard and fast rules where it's always a good idea to X. Like, I have had days where it's really been like, I should really be asleep right now. I have that thing tomorrow, and I know that, like, I'm kind of stressed out about this other project that I haven't finished, but I just need to be asleep. I'm going to get in bed and be asleep. And then tossed and turned for an hour. And just kind of been like, no, the actual smart thing to do is get out of bed and finish that project, even if that's going to take me another 3 hours. Because the only thing that I'm doing right now is lying here, unable to sleep.
Right, failing to sleep.
Stressing out about this thing, which is going to be another problem for me to deal with tomorrow. And I am probably going to operate better tomorrow, sleep deprived, but stress-free, rather than with sleep that I didn't really get. And also the stress of I still need to do that other project.
Yeah.
So I think the key in all cases is just honesty with yourself and sort of like really kind of taking time to listen to your emotional and your physical apparatus and getting like really good at what is the thing that I want to hear versus what is the thing that like my body and my mind and my like spirit are actually asking for. Because there are, in my experience at least, there are absolutely times when those things are all sort of in unison and like, pull the all-nighter, go, do it. It's going to be a little bit awful, but like
Right.
you're going to sleep so well the next day.
It's both what I want to hear and what I need to hear, and it'll be fine.
And there's also times when it's like no matter how stressed you are about that manuscript not being done, about that article not being started, about that like whatever it is that you're working on not existing yet, no matter how stressed you are about that, sometimes what your body is really telling you is like water the horses, get a meal, have the night off,
Right.
and go to sleep.
And I don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
but I gotta hear it.
Like on Thursday,
Yeah.
I've been a little bit sick all this past week.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I've been like since about a week ago, last Sunday, I started having mild symptoms of a cold. And it was one of those things where I kept the cold kept kind of going away and then kind of coming back and then kind of going away.
Right.
And I just sort of kept being like, I'm just going to like, power through this. I need to do work. I'm behind on that thing. I should really be writing that thing. I'm just going to like kind of ignore this. It's fine. Like the symptoms are mild. And on Thursday I was talking to my girlfriend and my girlfriend was kind of telling me, what is happening is those moments when you feel a little bit sick, that is when your body is rested enough that it can manifest some immune response. This isn't like the cold going away. This is you not giving your body the time and the space to do what it needs to do.
Right.
And you should like really take a sick day. Like tomorrow, you should just like stay home and watch like Netflix and let
sick.
whatever needs to happen because
Right.
this is clearly not going to go away until you give it the space to do what it needs to do. And I did that and I got super sick on Friday. And then on Saturday I was fine because it was just 100% what I needed to do.
Right.
And I think that it's just all about, and obviously I still have like ways to go. I still have a lot of learning to do about listening to my own body and listening to my own needs.
How would you say you've tapped into that? Like, do you think that that's something that you've naturally had? Do you think, can you point to
No.
where you learned it? Is it just like, do you have like a great girlfriend that just like points things out all
I have
the
a
time?
lot of great people who have like done a lot to help me with that. And generally speaking, friends, loved ones, family members, they are going to be invaluable in sort of telling you, because like when someone kind of goes either like, oh, you seem really tired, or oh, you seem really stressed, like when it's gotten to the point where like they can see it, that's when it's sort of like, kind of like, okay, I need to do something about like this or the other thing or whatever it is. I've also had a lot of great doctors. I've had a lot of sort of like great people who have both as therapists and as like, physical well-being doctors have sort of done a lot to kind of break down my body kinesthetics for me and have sort of done a lot to kind of go like, when you're feeling this is kind of what's happening and you might want to consider this, that, or the other. When you're feeling this, you might consider this, that, or the other. When you're feeling this, you're being a hypochondriac and just like go back to doing whatever you're doing.
Right.
Which is invaluable for someone like me that just has like very little physical awareness. Like I'm not someone that is very physically literate. Like I'm sort of someone who still struggles to do things like finding the balls of my feet.
Right.
Or sort of, kind
I
of
think I know where those are. Yeah.
yeah, or like, when I've been doing these exercises at the gym lately where I'm supposed to just kind of like lift things only with my shoulders. And I'm just physically incapable of doing it. Like, everything that I think is my shoulders moving is actually my elbows kind of bending. I live that kind of life. So having sort of people that can decode the body for you has been an incredibly useful part of it. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm like switching gears a little bit into, because I feel like it's somewhat related. Controlled Chaos.
Yes.
You've recently started a newsletter.
Yes. Which has been on break for the last 2 weeks, but
Okay.
we'll be back with a vengeance this coming week.
Amazing.
Yes.
And it's really, really good. Like if you're not signed up for it, you should, and the link is in the description of this video. But I'm curious, you're somebody who doesn't fuck around with titles, to put it bluntly.
That is
like
Zach's
names of things.
that is Zach's very, very nice way of saying that I spend way longer than I should thinking about what things should be called. And it is one of my favorite ways of procrastinating, actually doing something, is thinking about what it should be called and feeling productive,
And
even though
things
I'm not that productive.
tend to come out with good names. Like,
That's true.
I just think there's like, yeah, I very much appreciated the naming game in Wolf 359, and so yeah, I am curious, like, if you could maybe unpack what is controlled chaos
Sure.
beyond just an email experience, and maybe before you get into that, like, what is the email? Like, what can people expect out of the emails?
Sure.
And, yeah.
So, Controlled Chaos is basically kind of a weekly digest of what is going on in my life, which basically, if you abstract it, means that it is a newsletter about what it's like to try to be creative and professional and young in sort of the modern US urban setting, in sort of like millennial culture, in kind of the age of digital connection and mass media availability, because those are kind of the things that I end up struggling with and living through every day, and so that ends up being kind of the material on the newsletter.
Yeah.
So the two biggest parts of the newsletter are just kind of an update of the work that I'm doing. Just kind of, here is everything that I've done this week. Here's all the projects that I'm tackling. So in the past, I've talked about interviews that I've done. I've talked about a class that I taught about a month ago. I've talked about some writing assignments. I've dropped cryptic clues about things that I'm writing that I want to tell people about, but I can't tell people about just yet. And then the other sort of bigger part of it is a standing Ask Me Anything section where people can mail in questions, and I'll sort of take time to write out sort of my answers about it. And that's led to some interesting discussions about, can you teach creativity versus not teach? Are you incapable of like teaching someone how to be creative? About sort of how you balance priorities when writing radio dramas, about sort of just like staying productive and staying sort of like on topic. And the rest of the newsletter after that is basically sort of a rundown of what have I read this week, what have I been listening to this week, what have I been what is my procrastination tool of the week,
Right.
Sort of like the thing that I've been playing with instead of
The best of the internet, curated by internet and culture, curated by
sure,
Gabriel Urbina.
exactly, yes, yeah.
Cool.
So that is sort of the like quick rundown of
Right.
everything.
For anybody
that
who's
is
wondering
Controlled
like
Chaos.
what they'd be signing up for.
Exactly,
Right.
yeah. So
Cool.
you'd basically be getting like some updates on what I'm doing, which is I think sort of like the first selling point of just like if you like
Right.
Gabriel Urbina and you want like the insider baseball track of everything that he's working on, that's the best way to get it.
Right.
And then after that, it is sort of my thoughts on music, books,
And
films.
It's very expensive.
Yes, the premium package
$3.99.
is. Yes, it is absolutely free. It only costs you your very precious time, which I actually value at a premium.
Yeah,
so I really
seriously.
appreciate it. Yeah.
Cool. So, can you unpack the idea, the ethos, like I assume controlled chaos, while it may have popped into your head when you were like filling in the name my tiny letter thing,
Right.
I also imagine it's something you've thought a lot about.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I definitely didn't begin with the title Controlled Chaos and then built it upwards. It was one of those like the newsletter was designed and then I needed to find something to fit in there. And Controlled Chaos eventually popped into my head and I was just like, ooh, that's kind of neat and sexy and cool. But I think that it really spoke to me because there is something that felt very genuine and very applicable to kind of like young millennial creativity. about just kind of acknowledging upfront, this is not super structured and super neat and super well defined. This is a little bit of a mess and a little bit of just kind of like something that is out of control and just kind of like bigger than you are and just breathing and kind of scary. And what you're trying to do is not to deny the mess of it, but to kind of try to channel it and sort of try to like find the way to just like make the maelstrom work for you a little bit and try to just like direct the energies of it.
I love it. Put a saddle on it.
Yeah, but not like, but don't try to make it something that it isn't. Like, don't
Right.
try to sort of be like,
No, ride it.
controlled order, done. That is so in its place. Because, you know, like a big, for me, sort of what is interesting about the concept of reading about someone working in modern life is that there is a lot of like, this isn't, say, like reading the newsletter of a lawyer in the 60s, when it would just be like, this week I handled another case, and I did it well. Done. Next week, I handled another case. It was basically the same as the last case. There is this element of...
Yeah, spoiler, TV dinners are still TV dinners.
No, but like, you know, thinking about like modern creative life, there's sort of this element of, who knows what comes next? Like, you know, like... teaching classes, writing things, doing consulting work, going up, going down. Who knows what might come next? And you're just sort of trying to...
I mean, Amy's has so many microwavable options now. It's just out of control.
It's true. It's true. But I think that that's sort of why Controlled Chaos felt like a good fit in the moment of just kind of like, yeah, this I feel sort of like acknowledges both sides of it.
Right.
Acknowledges sort of the mess of it and also the trying to shape it aspect of it.
Awesome. So, talking about the mess of it, I think that we would be remiss to not talk about your experience on Wolf 359.
It was a mess. That was definitely a mess. I think it qualifies as a mess.
A controlled chaos.
It was a great mess. It was a beautiful mess.
It was
and
a mess we
that
all
is
opted in for.
yeah, and anyone that is tuning in that listened to
Yeah.
the show, thank you so much. We are still absolutely blown away that anyone even listened to the show. Never mind that it got like as much of a reaction as it got. So thank you so much to anyone out there that
Seriously.
is a Wolf 359 fan.
We so appreciate it. And
Yes.
it's just been an incredible ride.
Absolutely.
And, you know, I think, so like, I definitely have a couple of things that I like made up about you that I don't know are true.
Great.
And one of them is
If they're
that,
good, I'll
like-
keep them. And like if they're good,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah,
just
yeah.
incorporate them into the identity.
Well,
Yeah.
so like here's one. So like one is like you don't struggle with focus is something that like I said at a certain point, like in the back of my mind, because like I think of myself as somebody that struggles with focus, where I feel torn between a lot of different things, and you've always been clear that you're a writer. Where I'm like, yeah, I write, but like I do it this and then the other thing, and then you know, so
Sure,
there's
sure.
like a little bit of like clarity, I think, on you know, sort of what you're after. And then there's also just like, even if I was like, yes, I'm a writer, I would still be like sort of like struggling to get anything on the page until the night before it's due, where I feel like maybe that's something that you do also, but I feel like you're better at like sort of showing up
I
at,
cunningly
like,
hide it
like
better.
1 p.m. every like day for like 2 hours.
Oh hell no. I wish I have, like, as long as I can remember, I have had mad jealousy of like those people that every
the
day.
dude who wrote The Alchemist, like he just like,
Yeah, Paulo
wakes up-
Coelho.
Yeah, he just spells,
Yeah.
he's like, I write 4 hours a day
Right.
and I live my best life.
And then, as you know, and it's like, every morning, you know, they like get to Starbucks at 8 a.m. They got like their regular order. They sit down by 8:15. They're writing. 10:15. They're done. And then, you know, they go and they do whatever they do the rest of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so Stephen King in his book on writing, I forget who the author that he mentions is, but he tells this story about this dude who was like one of those people that is infamous, who wrote like 70 novels in
Oh
his
my
life.
God.
And was just one of those people that like every day wrote like 3 hours. Like,
Right.
you know, from 9 a.m. to noon. And if like one day at like, you know, 10:15 he finished a novel, it was like the end. Puts it aside.
Fresh paper.
Chapter 1, like
Yeah.
new novel gets started like the same day.
Oh my God.
And like I hear those stories and I'm just like I salivate. I'm just like, oh, I so wish that I was sort of those people. No, I am. It goes back to a little bit what we were saying before. Of like, you know, I have sort of a process that is way messier and which involves a lot of kind of like setting aside time where not a lot of writing happens, and then it all sort of comes out in one big concentrated, you know, in one sort of big concentrated push at the end. And I think that it may be a matter of just terminology. Like, I think that I sort of complain about, you know, during those days when I'm not getting any writing done and when I'm just kind of like sitting there playing solitaire on my phone, staring at like the piece of paper that I'm not writing on. I think that I would tend to complain about I don't have any ideas, or it's not happening yet. I'm not seeing the episode yet, I think is my hippie way of kind of saying like the structure just isn't clear yet.
Is that like frustrating?
Oh, yes, very.
Okay.
Yes, incredibly. But I think that like another person would sort of say of that same process, I just don't know what to focus on yet. I have this idea that like in this episode, Eiffel might be looking for the dartboard that he lost, and that could be fun, but like I don't know how to balance that with this idea that I had about Hira, you know, discovering that she is an upgraded model of this previous AI, and like I really wanted to like find a way to put that thing with Minkowski and the parakeet in here.
Minkowski and the parakeet, classic.
And, you know, and in my mind, I tend to sort of think of that as kind of like an engineering problem. I tend to think of that as like, I just need to kind of like turn these things around in my head and just sort of like try out all these different combinations until something snaps into place. It might be very easy for someone else to kind of be like, I'm not sure what to focus on. I'm not sure what elements of all these things that I've got swirling around to kind of bring into it. I think that it's the same, just like many ways, just like the same root. And it's just different ways of talking about the same problem.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I'm starting to think that maybe I'm just more neurotic and out loud about my neurosis than like...
Maybe. And it's true. Like, I sort of tend to be someone that when these sorts of things are frustrating me, I tend to kind of like Toby Ziegler and just kind of like slowly, like, you know, the shoulders rise and just like get like more and more like quietly inwardly stressed.
West Wing.
Yes.
Sorkin show, TV show, see it.
Yes.
Toby Ziegler, hero among men.
But like grouchy hero amongst men.
The most grouchy.
Yeah. This is a man who would go for like entire seasons not expressing any happiness unless one of his colleagues was getting publicly humiliated.
Right.
And was known for saying things like, I hate everyone and I am never happy. But I don't tend to sort of go... I don't tend to sort of complain about it to other people. I tend to just sort of like go down the like dark well into myself. And I tend to just take it out on myself of just kind of like, why can't you write this? Why can't you do this? What is wrong with you?
Why write?
Why write? Why do it?
Sounds like Rilke to me.
Yeah.
Letters to a Young Poet. I recommend
One of the
it.
best texts that you'll ever read if you're interested in the creative process.
Do you have any others?
That Stephen King book on writing, I think, is genuinely one of the best things that I've ever read on writing. I have this fascinating relationship with Stephen King where I kind of like him as a novelist. I love him as an essayist. Like, what I wouldn't give for him to just, like, take 5 years to just, like, essay it out and just, like, you know, whatever essays he wants to write. But On Writing and Danse Macabre, I think, are two of the best books about writing. I'm trying to think about, like, other things. most writing books that I've ever read, I've been like very frustrated by.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a lot of kind of like,
Well, because most of them are like, step one, be great, like me, the author you've never heard of until you bought this self-help book about writing.
or alternatively, step one, introduce your hero who has these qualities. And then on page 3, make sure that this happens to them. And that should be like setting you up for page 7 when this other thing happens. And that goes back to my like, no, context is everything. And you cannot account for everyone's context when you're giving such a rigid...
Backing into a franchise movie, like, what is that, like Save the Cat or something like that?
Save the Cat is one of those. Or Sid Field's book, Robert
McKee.
Robert McKee, yes, thank you. Actually, Film Crit Hulk, one of the best internet voices of our generation, wrote a great book about screenwriting.
It's amazing.
And I think
it's also in all caps.
Not necessarily.
There's a normal version.
Yes.
I read the all caps
okay,
because it's funnier.
Good for you. I definitely I got the ebook version of it, and like the first page is like, would you like the Hulk version or would you like the Bruce Banner version?
Right.
And I definitely selected the Bruce Banner version and did not think twice about it.
I went there eventually, but it's really fun in all caps for a while.
Right. It is like a fun gimmick because it is like sort of these like incredibly nuanced and incredibly like well thought out, well explained examples about how to write. But it's all said in this monstrous all caps voice that is just like rah, 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 rah. I unfortunately think that book is out of print.
Oh, man,
because he is doing, like, a revised version of it. And he's sort of like, so I took it out of sale, but don't worry, it's coming back. But I'm just, like, doing, like, the big, expanded new edition of it.
That's hard.
But it's been out of print for, like, a year now. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I get it. Like, but, like, just, like, take it out of sale when the new one is ready.
I know. That's rough. And like, so, like do like the software thing where like if you get version 1 now, like, and version 2 is coming, like you get a free upgrade.
Exactly.
Like, that's what I would do, but I don't
know. So if you can get it, screenwriting but Film Crit Hulk is really great. If you can't find it, just like keep an eye on his Twitter and like look for it. It should hopefully be out before too long. Yeah.
So as we start to wind down, I have a couple more like try this on for sad.
Okay.
Before you started Wolf 359,
yes,
you wanted something out of and like expected to get something out of Wolf, and like you're like you had this idea, and
drugs
like,
mostly,
right? I'm curious, like what sort of what was your hope in starting Wolf 359? Or sort of your aspiration, and maybe what's something that surprised you?
I think that my aspiration was to write. I think that my aspiration was I'm going to have something that is going to force me to, where it's not going to be an option to write, where it really is going to be something that is like, no, every week you need to produce something. Every week you need to be at the desk and you need to be typing things. And if you don't type those things, some amount of people are going to be somewhere on the mad, sad, disappointed triangle.
Especially your co-producers.
Yes, like, an
answer to those guys.
At the very least, like, Zach Valenti and Emma Sherjarko and Michaela Sui and Alan Brody are going to be disappointed in you. That's the bare minimum. And these are all people who I never want to disappoint. So the thing that I think I most went into that being excited about was just kind of having the like thing that would push me to constantly be writing and constantly be working. I think the thing that surprised me was, number one, just like how big of a life the project it took on. Mm-hmm. And two, I think that how much like real power and energy and engagement for all of us it had. I think that we all expected it to be way more of a side gig than it was. I think that we all really thought that this would be sort of something that I would write from LA and then I would send it to you and you would record it, and it would just sort of be like one of a couple of different things
in
that
the
we
background.
would all be doing.
Right. And it very much took center stage in
it very
our
much
lives.
took center stage, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that was a testament to not just the idea, but how much work and the quality of work that everyone put into it. And I don't think that that would have happened if, say, Emma Sherjarko hadn't had like sort of like a real energy and a real like,
Right.
you know, I want to explore this character and I have ideas and I have suggestions and I have thoughts. And Michaela Sweet did the same, and Alan Rhodey did the same, and Sarah Shackett and Cece Lynn Jacobs and, you know, Zach Libresco, Noah Mazer, Michelle Agresti, just like down the line, everyone in the cast was so in it to make it as big of a project and as expansive a project and as heartfelt of a project as they could.
Yeah.
And that, I think, really took me by surprise. And that was one of the best surprises of my life.
That's awesome. It really, looking back at it, it feels like a bunch of incredibly talented people, if I do say so myself.
And then the two of us. And
Right,
then the
right.
two of
And then
us.
the two of us, let's be real.
Yeah.
That, like, couldn't get hired.
Yeah.
Just because, like, our resume was, like, school.
No, and that's like that's
And
one
we
of-
just got to create the job of our dreams.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I have always sort of stated of like, in a cosmically just universe, Wolf 359 would have never happened. Because, you know, we would have knocked on Emma Sherjarko's door and it would have been like, I would love to do this. I am too busy touring
Jet
with
setting,
Shakespeare.
right.
Yeah. And we would have, you know, knocked on Alan Rhodey's door and he would have been like, I can maybe write one song for you, but my, like, you know, hectic double life as a film scorer and a, you know, music teacher doesn't allow me to do this. We were able to do it because all of these great people hadn't been picked by the system yet. So we were kind of able to go like, if you guys don't want the best people in the world, we'll take them. But yeah, it is one of those, like, it staggers the mind to think that people of that caliber and that passion and that talent were lying around and able to, not lying around, they were all incredibly active and incredibly, you know, dedicated in their pursuit of their crafts, but able to sort of take on a role like that. Yeah.
The last question I have for you today
Mm-hmm.
is, I know a lot of people that would love to be creative, and they feel like they're at their wits' effing end. Try not to swear so much.
I was gonna ask. I realized, like, at the start of the show, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, I meant to ask him what like the explicit policy on swearing is." I've caught myself like once or twice being like, "Crap."
I think I finally articulated it.
Okay.
In the new episode of Focused AF, which is live. I'm sure
Ooh.
live version of me already said. Anyway, so yeah, it's just a heads up. There's like a little swearing, not a lot, just like there's a little bit. So like if that bothers you, like get
Sure.
out while you still can.
Sure, sure. Or just be ready to kind of grit your teeth
Right,
a little
right.
bit, but know that it's not gonna
Right.
be like the endless parade.
And I ain't got NPR fucking money. There's no bleeped version on the website. Like, not yet anyway, NPR. Call me. I mean, anyway.
Okay, so people are at their wits'
End,
ends.
being like, I want to be creative, but I can't because I don't have a partnership. Like, I am not the kind of person that can be creative alone. And, like, that's something that, like, when I'm talking about that and thinking about that, like, I think about, you know, like, who among my friends, like, can work alone? And I think you have that illusion. And so it's like,
Sure.
having that dispelled is curious to me. And I'm curious, like, because we've been able to forge a creative partnership that's been incredibly fulfilling and nurturing for me. And I think, like, has been more fruitful than other partnerships I've had, but it's also not my only creative partnership. I'm curious if you could speak a little bit up to the art, science, and, you know, like, sort of mystery of how do you work with great people? How do you think about partnerships? And what would you say to somebody who's sort of like feeling a little bit stuck alone?
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a really good question. And I think that the part of it that I can tell you that I have like an answer right off the bat is how to sort of reach out to people, how to, you know, find partners. Overwhelmingly, I have found that what works best is taking an attitude of, I am doing this thing. This is a thing that I'm doing. This is an adventure that I'm embarking upon. Would you like to come on this adventure? This adventure is going with or without you. Do you want to come on board? Yes or no? Mm-hmm. I found that that has worked a lot better than we should really work together sometime. We should like get together and come up with something. Or even like, hey, so I have this kind of idea and I think that it might be fun if like we could do sort of something together with it. I think that like overwhelmingly people are sort of attracted to the idea of, oh, okay, this is a thing that is happening and there's a part that is set aside for me and there's a role that I could do in it. So in terms of sort of how to get people on board and how to get people to do things, overwhelmingly I find that the main thing that you can do to help is take it out of the theoretical, take it out of the realms of like, this is a thing that I might do, and start pitching it as, hey, I'm doing a thing. Do you want to join me? Do you want to come with me? Do you want to do the thing?
Right.
And in terms of sort of how do you approach people, how do you approach partners?
I guess before we even get to how do you approach people,
Sure. Or like how do you evaluate a partner?
Well, no. What if you're not committed to a specific idea? Or what if you're one of the people that is like sort of waiting to be approached? And you like know you want to be podcasting, say, or you know you want to be YouTubing, say, and you just like want a partner to do it with. I guess, is that something that like, would you just say like, make it up, like come up with something small that you can fail at easily, like a one-man podcast show that like will only be like 5 minutes long every episode, right? Like,
sure.
And like, is that like would you say bootstrap it by sort of faking it till you make it? Like,
I don't think that that's the worst idea in the world.
I'm not looking for a definitive answer.
Sure.
My thing is just like leaving people watching who might be dealing with that specific problem with like a couple of things to try.
Sure. I think that like the other thing that you can do is make it just abundantly clear what are the things that you are offering, and specifically what your perspective is. Like I sort of think of someone like, say, Noah Mazer, who played Jacoby on Wolf 359. When we first sort of talked about working together, well, actually, the second time that we talked about working together, because we'd previously worked together in college. But when we started talking after he graduated about doing some work together, he didn't have anything that was like, all right, so I've got this script that I'm doing. You want in, you want out? But he sort of had something that, just like talking to him, I was just keenly aware about. He has thoughts about how comedy works. He has thoughts about how narrative works. He has thoughts about what's a good story. He has thoughts about what's a good character. He has thoughts about what makes for satisfying narrative experience. And he has kind of a perspective, and I can tell what that, at least a little bit about what the contours of that perspective is, and I can tell how it's different than my own. And I can also tell that he is interested in doing things. I think that's a huge thing that you can do, is just kind of being explicit. And the more that you can sort of tell people, like, I'm interested in doing X, like, you know, I guess it comes back a little bit to that question of focus, but I find it a lot easier when someone kind of comes to me and is like, hey, I'm really interested in acting, than sort of when someone goes like, I'm really interested in podcasting.
Right.
Because then that's a little bit of sort of an onus on the person that you're approaching to kind of be like, okay, do I see you as a writer? Do I see you as a actor? Do I see you as a commentator? Like, do I see you as sort of like, you know, like a podcast journalist?
Right.
So the more that you can kind of make it clear what you're offering, the easier it will be for other people to approach you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, if you're thinking, I want to make a podcast, it's probably I'm looking for a co-host if it's a nonfiction show.
Sure.
And that's an easier, like, ask. It's just clearer. Like,
Yeah.
I know I got introduced to you after graduation because one of our mutual friends knew I was gunning it for voiceover.
Exactly.
In a way that, like, it could have been just equally easy for him to ignore me because he doesn't know what I want to do.
Or
as
if
an artist.
you had said, hey, friend, I'm really interested in podcasting. If you hear anything about podcasting, let me know. But then what I posted on Facebook was, so I came up with this idea for a one-man radio show. Does anyone know of anyone interested in voice acting?
That wouldn't flag necessarily.
No, maybe he would read that and just kind of be like, like, that neural connection wouldn't have gotten made.
But because he saw voice actor, he wrote Zach Valenti, and 1 minute later I was in your DMs,
Exactly.
like, shaking you down for a script.
True story. And the timeline is not at all compressed. That is exactly
It's
how
exactly
long it
1
took.
minute we
Yeah.
checked.
It was a little bit scary, yes.
Thankfully, it wasn't 1 minute after you posted, but I don't know how quickly.
No. He reached out fairly quickly, but like it was not like
that would be crazy. It was like 1 minute and then 1 minute. That would be like a conspiracy.
it would be a little alarming. Yes.
Awesome. Well, this has been really useful.
Absolutely. Well, I hope so. Yeah.
Fun to talk to you.
Oh yeah, anytime. It's always great to hang out with you and Tiffy and
she's over there. You can't really see her in the chair, but
but her spirit
get the
is
camera up higher.
very much here between us.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where can people find you? Where should people interact with you if they have other questions?
Sure. Well, you can read up more about what I'm up to and what services I'm offering at GabrielUrbina.com. That's GabrielUrbina.com.
And if you're thinking about working on a story and like just dealing with anything that this man can help you with, he is like an amazing person to work with. How to hire him is through his website. And,
and you'll see a lot of just kind of like where to write, what to do.
You would be making a mistake to not if you're looking for somebody of his skill set.
Thank you, Zach. That's very nice of you. For miscellaneous yelling, the best place is Twitter. And that's just Gabriel Urbina TM, like at Gabriel Urbina, trademark. Yeah.
Nice. And where can people find Controlled Chaos?
They can find that at, oh God, I'm going to get this wrong, but I think it's tinyletter.com/Gabriel Urbina. Yeah.
I'll put that in all those in the notes.
Exactly, in the doobly-doo.
Awesome.
Yes.
Well, thanks for doobly-doing with
anytime
doobly stuff. I don't. This is a Hank Green thing.
Doobly-doo?
Yeah.
That is, I first heard that from Idea Channel, from Mike Magneta.
I'm pretty sure the Vlogbrothers coined that.
Oh,
At least they take credit for it.
I would not doubt it.
YouTuber beef.
Yeah. I've heard other people use it, but I learned it from Idea Channel. Yeah.
All right. Well, until doobly-doo. Now it's all I can say. Well, that'll have to do. I think I got that problem. Next month will be better. But yeah, that was our interview with Gabriel Urbina. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to be fielding questions with Trevor here as you send them in. In the meantime, Trevor and I are going to catch up with y'all about a frame shift update. So first, for the people who don't know, why don't you take a second to describe what is frame shift?
Totally.
Why are we working on it?
Yeah. So it was the winning script in, like you said, your contest during Rice-Gryvember, write a script in November, and a lot of people wrote, say, like a first episode of an audio drama, and this one was selected as the winner that we're going to produce that episode of, and it will be for a good cause. We're going to put it up on Bandcamp once it's all done, and all the donations that people want to put in to get the episode will go to United for Puerto Rico, which is a cause that still needs work, despite it being so many news cycles ago, still relevant.
Truth.
And so part of what we did was bring in a bunch of different people from different audio dramas we like, and they all agreed to help out for the cause. So the show itself, or the episode itself, is a bit of a sci-fi, not too un-Wolf 359-like premise.
Written by Shannon Smith.
Yep.
Not
Shannon
Gabrielle.
Smith.
Or
Not,
me.
yeah. And it's a group of aliens stationed on one of the moons of Jupiter, terraforming, and they experience a strange visitor.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Some crash lands, and they have to deal with it. And there's some great characters and some really cool sci-fi concepts about intergalactic communities and what it means to be a thinking being and the good stuff you come to when you want a sci-fi audio drama.
Yes. I'm hoping to have the script on the Rice-Gryvember website by next Self-Care Sunday, which will be the first Sunday in May. I don't have that number off the top of my head. But yeah, stay tuned on actually reading the script, which I'm like torn, but I feel like we should just make that live now so you can read it if you want, and then you can hear how it comes to life with the following people.
Hey! So we announced, for those that didn't catch last Self-Care Sunday, Brigand Snow is playing one of the leads. Let's see. I've been calling it a little bit of an Avengers-style team-up of the audio drama talent. We have Eli Barraza is going to play another lead from The Far Meridian. We have our lovely Zach Valenti, of course. We have Zach Labresco, so we have at least 2 Zachs, because every project's better with 2 Zachs.
Double the Zach.
We
Double
have Beth
everything else.
Eyre from Wooden Overcoats, one of my all-time faves. And let's see who else. Kristen DiMercurio is going to also do a little dual role with Zach.
What?
And
2
that's the
actors,
crew.
1 part.
Yeah, we're going to give that a shot. So I think we hit most of people's favorites there.
All
I'm
right.
really excited about that, especially because it will help through their networks and their fans spread the word, get it out to more people, and raise the potential that we can get for the good cause.
Yeah, yeah, and bring more people into the medium, which is
Absolutely.
even as exciting. So yeah, I couldn't be more excited for this all-star crew.
Yeah, people seem excited in the chat. That's awesome.
I see you guys reacting. That lag is magic. And yeah, I feel privileged to get to produce such a cool script, and I'm really lucky to have the team sort of assembled. And yeah, you will have to stay tuned for more updates.
Like we said, we're in the middle of recording now. We're just getting people as they're ready, and
Right.
it's all happening.
It's all happening. Well, on that note, so much of it is happening because of my amazing patrons at patreon.com/Zach Valenti. Y'all have maybe unintentionally been funding like all of these crazy experiments, because I think it's a little maybe unclear what my Patreon pays for. And what it pays for is like all of the tools and services and like people involved in making things like write a script in November, write Scrivember work, and all of the sort of logistics. Everybody who's on the production team is volunteering their time, but there's still sound effects, there's still software licenses that we need to edit the thing, there's hosting fees involved with various website services. So it's just like all of that stuff adds up, and y'all in my corner on Patreon are the people that are putting your money where your mouth is and saying this is important and we should see this. We should see more of this. This being the various experiments that I've been experimenting with and indulging, and I just look forward to doing even more this year, especially now that we're set up with such a crazy sort of bat cave situation. Oh, bless you, Tiffy. Yeah, it is an honor to have you guys in my new space. I so appreciate all of you for tuning in, and yeah, I love you guys. Happy Self-Care Sunday, and just so that we're all clear, the next Self-Care Sunday is first Sunday of the month, May 6th. May is next.
May is
March
next.
is
We are
before,
officially in April.
and then it's May. Yeah, I love you all. Thank you for joining, and
Bye, everyone.
I'm now going to struggle to find the button. There's a button
This is where I
involved in
dance while
turning
Zach
it off.
finds the button.
Well, so it's like, oh man, there's so many windows open right now. I should like screen share this part so people can see why it's so challenging.
Behind the scenes is really just tab management.
Right. Okay, there it is.
Right.
Oh, but then there's the other button that pops up. But are you sure you want to press the button? Yeah.